Folks, in the state capital of Mississippi, Jackson, thousands are without water. The governor is telling them don't drink it, use bottled water. This has been a fundamental problem for quite some time in Jackson, Mississippi. The mayor, Chokwe Lumumba, declared a water system emergency. He says complications from the Pearl River flooding caused a massive pump failure at the water treatment plant. The governor, Tate Reeves, issued this warning.
Please stay safe. Do not drink the water. In too many cases, it is raw water from the reservoir being pushed through the pipes. Be smart. Protect yourself. Protect your family. Preserve water and look out for your fellow man and look out for your neighbors.
Reeves said the cause of the problem is unknown. The city-run water treatment plant has been poorly operated and understaffed for years. When the governor made the announcement, the mayor was not there. Joining us now, Jackson, Mississippi Council Member and Alpha Man Brian Grizzell, who represents Ward 4. Glad to have you here, Frat. First and foremost, Mississippi got more than $400 million in infrastructure money last year. Where in the hell did the money go? It was supposed to be specifically for pipes and water treatment facilities.
You know, I believe that that's a really good question because to date, the city of Jackson has not received the bulk of that money. We received one tranche, I think roughly about $4 to $4 million, and the state is opening a program September 1, which will allow them to allow us to apply for a match of those funds. The infrastructure statewide is very antiquated, and we need help. And so the issue in the city of Jackson is actually more than 30 years old. It's just come to a head. And the divestment in the city of Jackson has been extremely egregious. And so we need all the help that we can get. We're still trying to find that money, and we're trying to pinch pennies to do what we can to bring clean drinking water to the citizens of Jackson.
The thing here is that the governor is trying to blame incompetence in Jackson, but it's also this is the state capital. So the state also has a responsibility here, correct?
Absolutely. In fact, when we issued our legislative asks this past legislative session, we didn't get a dime. And so, again, we were left out basically to fend for ourselves and to move monies around necessary to try to make amends. Our water treatment system, again, it's one of the most unique ones in the country. We have a conventional system, and then there's another system that actually most people aren't even certified in working with. And so we're trying to do what we can to make sure that we can kind of mend fences here and work with the state and also the federal legislation. I know Senator Wicker has put some interest in. He's been committed to helping us, and we're trying to secure the funds necessary. At the end of the day, we're going to need a new plant. But right now, we just want to get clean drinking water to our citizens.
You got schools that are virtual as a result of this. Folks are having to bottle water. What is the city and the state doing? Are they bringing in bottled water? Or residents having to force to spend their own money? And has the city suspended folks paying their water bills?
So as there's kind of been a mixture. For the longest time, the city has taken donations and also purchased water for citizens. Yesterday, the state came in with aid to bring in bottled water. The Corps of Engineers have also come in with non-potable water to actually help mitigate some of the stresses of having drinking water. But for the longest time, the city has been doing that. Now, in terms of paying the water bills, so part of our issue was that the city stopped cutoff years ago, which is why we have a deficit in our enterprise fund.
Well, now, hold on. When you say stop cutoff, meaning if people who owed their water bills, the city would not cut their water off.
Correct. So that was another issue.
And how first it's so like in perpetuity. So somebody could literally not pay their water bill for 6 months, and the city still wouldn't turn the water off.
Actually, I know someone who we've been trying to work with who hasn't paid their bill in 7 years.
Whoa, 7 years?
Yes, and so as a result, we have a $27 million deficit. But we are working through that. We are starting to recover our enterprise. We have new meters in place. And of course, Roland, that is a totally separate issue that we can definitely discuss. because it helped to get us to the point here.
Well, I mean, I'm just trying to understand, though. I mean, $27 million deficit is significant. I mean, I get if you're a month or two behind, but damn, 7 years?
Yeah, it's a decision that I wouldn't agree with. This is my first year in office. Well, I'm wrapping up my first year in office, but it's a business decision that I wouldn't necessarily agree with. But let's keep in mind too that the issue at hand is $1 billion problem. So that $27 million wouldn't even be a drop in the hat with this $1 billion issue.
Okay, now when you say it's $1 billion problem, what does that mean? That in order to completely overhaul the water treatment facility in Jackson, Mississippi, you're saying the cost would be around $1 billion?
At least $1 billion, and that's for a plant. But to actually overhaul completely, it may be even closer to $2 billion.
For one plant?
We have 2 plants in the city.
Okay. Got it. And obviously, you're dealing with one of the poorest states in the country.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jackson, the people here, we're very resilient. We've always had to figure out ways to fend for ourselves because of the level of divestment that has taken place. We are the capital city of Mississippi, and we've always had to fight to remind people that this is the capital city of Mississippi. We have 8 major universities here. We have the state's #1 level 1 trauma center here. The teaching hospitals are here. Everyone comes here for health care, and they come here to learn. And we have one of the largest school districts in the state of Mississippi right here in the city of Jackson. And so a lot of other areas, of course, a lot of resources end up in these other areas, and we've just been basically drained dry of a lot of resources. But we continue to fight for our fair share, and we continue to make do with what we have.
All right, Councilman Grizzell, Jackson, Mississippi. We surely appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Mustafa, I want to start with you. I mean, this is what we're talking about when the president passed the massive infrastructure bill. Republicans fought it, although they love the money, and then taking credit for it. And this is what happens in America. I say this all the time. Americans, whether you're on the city level, county level, state level, federal level, we wait for stuff to break and then we go, oh, you know what? We might want to go ahead and fix that now. I mean, the idea of being ahead of the curve is just lost because everything in this country is, oh, that's going to cost too much until it completely breaks down.
When it breaks, it costs us twice as much, sometimes 3-4 times as much. So let's be clear about what's going on in Jackson. When you look at Mississippi, we know the long history of racism, and that racism actually making its way into policy and the disinvestments that have happened in a number of Black towns and cities across Mississippi. Now, Mississippi's not the only place. We also know that dollars have been sitting in something called the State Revolving Loan Fund. So the feds send money to the states, and then the governor or a commission determines the areas that they are going to then invest dollars in. And we know that there have been a number of governors across the South who have refused to move forward on those water infrastructure dollars that are so critical. Now, one of the things that we should do is for the loan programs, we got to make sure that they are, at a place where those cities that are having challenges can actually, utilize those dollars. But the other part of it is we also got to continue to expand out the grants so that people don't have to pay those dollars back, even when they're low interest loans. So the reality of the situation is across the South, we've had those governors that refuse to make the investments to build infrastructure or rebuild infrastructure. And then in some places, deal with the crumbling infrastructure that's going on.
Teresa, I'm going to go back to what I said when it came to Confederate monuments. You have these Republican legislatures, Republican governors who want to bleed Democrat cities, Black cities. They want to force them to fend for themselves.
You're absolutely right. And this is a prime example. I think, when we had the American Rescue Act plan where they announced millions of dollars were going into states, I'm really looking for the governor here. I was looking for, some statements, some operational plan to actually help this city out of this strategy with the funds that they received. There's no reason why, we're still, just putting Band-Aids on this situation when clearly there's a problem. When people and businesses and communities are flooded, that ultimately has other repercussions. And I'm not sure why on the federal side, it's the funds aren't matriculating, and also on the state level, why the funds aren't being given to the states so they can actually have that forward thinking. It shouldn't have taken an election year in order for it to probably change, because these people need it right now.
DeMario, when we talk about again, we just one thing after another, and again, we can go from city to city and we see this. We see environmental racism. We see the lack of building. We see folks wait until bridges collapse, then go, oh, let's fix it. Then they say, oh, well, we got schools and other buildings, and it's one thing after another. This nation just doesn't give a damn about infrastructure, because everything is, it's going to cost so much money. Yet it's amazing how we can find money to give the military 40 and 50 billion more than even asked for, more than in the Biden budget. How we keep spending money there. If you want to understand a country's priorities, look at where they spend their money, and then they say, well, we don't have any money to fix it. But then again, when something collapses, people die. Folks can't go to work. And look, we talk about water here. Look what happened in Flint. There are people in Flint, Michigan, who lost children because of the infected water. There are individuals there whose generational lines are going to be impacted because of the lead poisoning that is in their bodies. Folks are going to be monitored for the next 30 years. You're now talking about that's now in the DNA of folks. So people may think, okay, yeah, it's water, but something as basic and fundamental as water has generational impact when your systems get destroyed and the people are infected as a result.
Hey, man, good to see everybody tonight. A few things. Number one, yes, it is water, and that's the most basic element of life. You have to have water to drink, to bathe in, to sustain life. And when you're talking about even utilizing bottled water, that is not a solution. I mean, you know how many bottles of water it takes to fill up a tub? I mean, you're talking about over 100 bottles of water. So that's number one. This is a massive issue. Number two, Roland, I think we want to continue to reiterate what you said off the top. This is a systematic disinvestment into Black-led and/or Black majority cities. This is purposeful. They want this to happen to Jackson. They don't care that this is happening to Jackson, because although we're looking at some white people on this video, Jackson is a majority Black city, and it's ran by majority Black politicians, including their very progressive, the mayor. So they want to see the systematic failure. These things do not happen in suburban America. These things do not happen in white communities. This is in Black communities. This is a direct result of Reaganomics. This is a direct result of how Republicans hate public services. They hate public services because that means that Black people may have some equitable portion of it. So instead of letting us get an equitable portion of it, they'd rather just destroy everything. And the third thing I want to say here is this is directly tied to a court case that just happened last week, where the Fifth Circuit upheld a Jim Crow era voting law out of Mississippi. Because Mississippi, the thing they care about most is not football, is not water treatment plants. It is about oppressing white Black people and making sure Black people have the worst lives possible. So this is the outgrowth of those three things.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches. I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay Black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?